Hey everybody, I have been doing tons of videos over the 6 months showing all of the great things that have happened, but I also wanted to do a video, it's been on my mind for a while, of going over the negative effects within the first 30 days. A lot of people see all this good and then they do carnivore and they're like, what's going on? Why am I having all these bad things happen? And I want to explain what they are, kind of what to expect time-wise, and some solutions that I use to help with them. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I love hearing from you guys. Don't forget, if you have questions, throw them in the comments. If I don't get to them there, I'll just add them to the Sunday's Q&A. Thank you for your support. You supporting me helps support others and my channel grow so we can reach more people and help them. This specifically is meant for people who are going from like a standard American diet or a carb-laden diet to carnivore abruptly. You will be detoxing. It is like someone on methamphetamine going from doing drugs to not. If you've not seen it, it's really, really drastic and it's very hard on their system. Thankfully, carnivore isn't nearly as bad as that, but that is where all these negatives come from. Your body is detoxing from all the chemicals and carbs we've been feeding them. So week 1, you're starting carnivore, your first day or two is going great. You have a lot of willpower moving you forward. And then day 3 or 4 hits and the cravings will just absolutely smack you in the face. You will look at everything and things that normally weren't tasty before, you will think you want to eat them. Cravings last for weeks. I believe for me, they lasted about 5 weeks or so. It genuinely has to do with how insulin resistant you are and how quickly your body switches to fat adaptation. Your body is crying for those carbs. That's why it's making you look at things and say, I need sugar, I need carbs, because your body's primary fuel source at this point is carbohydrates. But we're trying to switch from doing carbs, which I consider like gasoline, to diesel, which would be fat. It takes time for our body to go from one to the other. If you give in and eat when those cravings hit, eat sugars or carbs that is, you're just re-upping that gasoline system and you're either slowing your progress or you won't actually make it to the fat adaptation period. I also want to mention sometimes you can go days and no cravings and then have tons of cravings and then it'll kind of wax and wane. Normally it's not like constant. Be true to the diet and really focus on a high fat. The way to deal with the cravings that I found is either eating just like a small slice of butter, letting it melt on your tongue, or having bacon, because bacon's very fatty. And I would either have the butter, wait a few minutes. If that didn't do, I'd go back again, and usually by the 2nd or 3rd time, the craving was gone. Or I would do bacon, because I mean, I like bacon, who doesn't? And just eat one piece and then same thing, wait a few minutes, go back, eat another piece if I need to, go back. Next symptom is fatigue. The fatigue normally starts happening somewhere about day 3 to day 5. It's different for every person. I was flat out exhausted to the point where climbing up one set of stairs seemed like going up Mount Everest. I had to lay down frequently. And here's the thing, the fatigue happens because your body is being starved of carbohydrates because you're not eating them, and then the carbs that are stored in your liver, those get used up, and those usually get used up within a 4 to 5 day period. Once you're out of that and your body starts switching to this fat burning, that in-between period is where this fatigue happens. So expect the fatigue to last anywhere from just a couple weeks to 3, 4, 5, and even 6. The fatigue will last longer if you are doing things that are off carnivore and you're slipping these carbs in there. Just keep that in mind. The more carbs or cheats you do, the longer this fatigue is going to last for until your body truly switches over. So how I dealt with the fatigue. I laid down, even if it was for 5 minutes at a time, or if I can't leave the computer, I would literally just lay back in my chair at the computer and shut my eyes for 2 or 3 minutes, not sleeping, but just trying to reset myself. I avoided doing anything strenuous. I did not exercise any way, shape, or form in the beginning. You cannot exercise through this fatigue. It just stresses your body out more. I did the minimal amount of activity for the first 4 weeks just to live life and reserved what energy I did have for things I needed to do. The third symptom is brain fog. This kind of mirrors the fatigue. It's the same thing. Your body is used to having instant energy. It will tell you, I'm craving energy. It's going to tell you to go eat a candy bar or, whatever else it is. And you're not feeding it that. So the body is not getting that instant injection of fuel. So the brain gets foggy. Things get harder to think of. And as the fatigue goes, the brain fog will go. You'll actually find over time your thoughts get a lot more clear as time progresses. I think my brain fog started about week 1 and lasted about 3.5 weeks, and then it was just gone. Number 4, this honestly is the biggest one for me. When you change your diet rapidly, this is not solely just carnivore. When you have any rapid diet change, you will get diarrhea. The reason is the bacteria in our gut gets used to whatever you're feeding it, whatever that diet is. When you change the diet, so you go from carb to fat, all that bacteria wants carbs. Well, you're not feeding it, so they die off. And what happens is your body flushes your intestines, which leads to the diarrhea. It starts within a few days. You're lucky if you can get past week 1 and not have this problem. But again, keep in mind, this is for people who were not already fat adapted. If you're fat adapted, usually you can breeze right through this without having too much of a problem. My diarrhea bout lasted for about 5 weeks. I've heard people only 2 weeks. I think it truly depends on your body, how long you've been insulin resistant, how long you've been eating a certain way. There's a lot of factors, so I think expect anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks with the diarrhea. And make sure, I don't mean to be crude when I say this, but make sure if you have gas, you go to the bathroom. Don't ask me how I know this, but just trust me. My suggestions for dealing with the diarrhea: make sure you are getting enough water. You are losing a lot of fluid this way. Make sure you are getting enough salt and minerals, and make sure you continue to eat. You may not feel very good, but you just need to keep on keeping on. Let the different bacteria regrow in your intestines. Things will smooth out, and like now, I have no problems at all now. The next few may or may not happen for certain people, but I still wanted to mention them. So they're smaller, but I think it still bears mentioning. The next one are cramps. This happens usually when you don't have enough sodium, magnesium, or potassium. I personally take a multivitamin. If you can eat liver and things like that, that is a great way to get them. But I have texture problems, and honestly, there's no way I could humanly make myself swallow liver. So I've taken a multivitamin from the get-go. I do drink things like LMNT. It's an electrolyte mix. Or, I've done just increasing the salt I put on my meat. I strongly suggest increasing your salt intake more than what you think you need. I ended up having to triple it because we're not getting any salt that's been pumped into these pre-made foods, so we need salt. And surprisingly, without the carbs, you don't bloat when you have more salt. Number 6 is headaches. This goes along with not enough water, not enough salt, potassium, magnesium, those things. So, as I said, I take a multivitamin. I just up my water to make sure I'm getting enough, and salt. Problem solved. Number 7 is you might experience some food aversion, specifically meat aversion. There was, I believe, 2 days in, I could not stand the thought of eating any kind of meat. It didn't matter what kind. It made me nauseous. What I did to resolve this was I decided if I was truly hungry, I would eat whatever was set in front of me, whether I wanted it or not. So I must not be hungry. I ended up fasting for a little bit more than 24 hours, and I ended up having a ribeye at the end of that 24-hour period, and it was delicious. I had that happen 1 or 2 more times, and my choice was I decided to fast to get over this, and every time I did the fast, doesn't matter if it's 12 hours, 24, whatever, I went back, ate the meat, and it was delicious. Number 8 is irritability. This comes from so many different reasons. You're not getting your sugar high, you're not getting to eat what you want, you know, you're having to stick to a regimen. There's just a lot of things I think that create this irritability in us, where you're having, you know, body changes, things like that. The best way to get over it, honestly, is to get over it. I hate to say this, but the irritability comes and it goes. There was one point I got so irritable I just wanted to chop my hair off, and I actually did. You just got to deal with irritability, focus on things that you enjoy doing. I like to sew and do leather working, so focus on things like that and it will subside. Once you acknowledge this is no longer a choice, you have to do this, that irritability gets a little less and a little less as time progresses, and I think after a few weeks it's gone. Number 9 are sleep disturbances. The first 2 to 3 weeks, I did not sleep well. I already had sleep problems prior. Again, your body is dumping chemicals out of it. You're not getting what it wants. You're giving it what it needs. And all these things just cause, you know, an imbalance in the body. It settles down about 3 to 4 weeks into the diet. Things are smooth. I sleep much better. I will say I do take melatonin. I've always had problems sleeping. It's just over the counter. It's a melatonin pill. Do not do the chews. They have a ton of sugar in them. It's just a melatonin pill, and I do that every night, and it works beautifully for me. So if you have sleeping problems, that is my suggestion. Number 10 are skin changes. I had a little bit more, I've never really had tons of acne, but I had a little bit tiny amount more. I have seen tons of people comment though that their skin looked a little bit worse for the first few weeks and then it started to look better. You know, something we always forget is our skin is actually our largest organ of our body, so no wonder we're going to see changes in it, specifically when we're talking about diet. Number 11, one of the most important things I can suggest for people who are going from low fat or standard American to carnivore. You will experience nausea. It's kind of some stomach upset, and I'm not talking about the diarrhea, I'm just really talking about your stomach. It is because you are going from a low, moderate amount of fat to high fat, no carb. My suggestion for this is if you are having a lot of nausea and stomach upset, to slowly increase the amount of fat you're intaking. Don't go from, you know, cake and cookies one day to you're trying to force yourself to eat a stick of butter every day. It's very unpleasant. I had this problem, and the good thing about this, as when you wean yourself into a higher fat diet, your body will increase the acidity in your stomach, making it over time no issue whatsoever, no matter how much fat you're intaking. Now I can eat literally as much fat as I want in a meal and I have no problems. I used to have GERD. Even the thought of eating something with fat, like high fat, just absolutely made me nauseous, sick, indigestion, and all of that went away about the 4-week mark. We've talked about all of the negative effects, or at least most of them, that you might experience. But keep in mind, every journey has its bumps and stumbles that you're gonna have. It is not going to be easy, but if you can wade through it, get through that detox period, everything just starts to get brighter, things start to get easier. I went from not having any energy, you know, most of you know that I was 32, having to use a walker to get around, couldn't walk more than 2 minutes, to now I'm at my 6-month mark and I'm walking over 2 miles every single day. This was not possible. That change, I went from having to use a walker to within 4 weeks I was able to give it up, and I believe somewhere between the 5 and 6 week mark I started paddleboarding. The negatives pale into comparison to the benefit that we can get out of doing this. This is an elimination diet. This is not, I get to have everything I want and have my cake too diet. It is difficult, you have to sacrifice, but let me tell you, being 360 pounds, not able to go anywhere, not able to walk, depressed, on the verge of suicide, was 1,000 times more restricting than limiting what I eat now. I hope you got something out of this. I want people to go into this eyes wide open. It is very difficult when you only hear all the positives and no one ever mentions the negatives. So here's all the side effects I experienced, and I hope this prepares you well for your journey. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. There is
brain fog, brain fog, brain fog.
Hey everybody, welcome.
Ship crashed into the shore.
I was doing fine there. You interrupted me. Okay, start it over. I truly, I don't know, lots of language, but no, I mean lots of words.
Just
but
say.
Number 8 is irritability. This, I think, is just a side effect of not getting what you want to eat.
God knows what a real woman is.
Number, I almost tried to do 11. Like, I only have 10 fingers. I'm such an idiot. Number 11.
Stick your nose in it. 5, 5, and 11.